when you give them, emotional, like maybe if you show them like somebody, a dead body or something like that, and you put them in a scanner, what you'll see is the areas of the brain that consume the most oxygen aren't the areas that are in the majority of people, which are like around like the emotion processing area. Instead, they tend to go to other parts of the brain that are not all that different in processing from what a normal person would process for a non-emotionally salient stimuli, non-emotionally uh, response, trying to get a response stimuli. So just stimuli is fine. So what does that mean? So what I'm trying to say is that we have different subjective experiences, obviously. Then, so that's kind of what I wanted to get to, and I was kind of already getting to that a little bit first. So what I mean by that is we have different perceptions of the world. You, me, everybody else. I mean, if you have a perception, which I believe you do, but I can't prove, it's different from mine because of the fact that you have the different ways that you react. There's science has been able now to tell us, give us a pretty good hint, at least beyond reasonable doubt. My knowledge that your perception is different from mine is as that knowledge is as great, or is as certain, I should say, as the knowledge that your perception exists. The knowledge that it's different is as certain as the knowledge that it exists. So whatever's going on inside you, which I'm fairly certain that there is, it's probably different than mine, or it is different than mine. That those two things are of the same level of certainty, because of the fact that they're both gained from the same types of. They're both the belief in both of them come from the same types of science, the same types of experience, environmental proofs. So now I guess we're going to go on to some basic philosophy from this. So from this philosophy and scientific understanding, there's kind of two things that you can probably think of from this. So now the first one's kind of, it might sound a little bit odd, or it might sound kind of taboo, but so basically, and maybe not, but it is true. I mean, think of it this way: we all, you want to protect your family members, right? Obviously, probably more so than some stranger on the street. That's probably the case for everybody. I know it is for me. I care a lot more about my family than I even do my friends, or anybody else, as a matter of fact. So for that matter, so the reasoning why, though, is because of the fact that they're similar to me, right? Evolution is selected for people, human beings, and other animals that keep kin in higher regard than other members of the same species, and keep the members of the same species in higher regard from other members of other species, and keep members of species that are closest to us genetically in higher regard than other members of the whole human, or not whole human, but whole ecological hierarchy. So I will protect my brother over the guy across the street. I'll protect the guy across the street over a chimpanzee, but I'll check the chimpanzee over a cat or a dog, and it keeps on going down the chain. I'll probably give them more rights. I don't think it's if someone were to in societies do that, you can't go out and just randomly beat an animal. You can go to jail for that. You can't do a lot of different types of testing on chimps that you can on cats and dogs. You can go to jail for that. You can't kill your neighbor, or do any kind of testing or any kind of on your neighbor across the street for drugs and stuff like that, unless it's been approved by the FDA and all these other things that have to be done. You can't just randomly go do that. You'll go to jail for that, or prison or something, or give the death penalty. And then within your own family and such, there's no societal laws, obviously, against that are any more significant against members of your family from other people, and there's two reasons for that. One is, and in some societies that might be I'm sure that is the case, that you get even more penalized if you hurt your brother. You know, and the Bible talks a little bit about that, like, you know, the person who hurts their brother is, you know, is worse than the person who hurts their enemy. In some parts it says probably, you know, the opposite, that it's better to hurt your brother than your enemy. I don't know. Anyways, but, you know, societally, we in Western, you know, civilization and Western philosophy give every human being the same basic rights, egalitarian, before the law, and all those other kinds of things. And you know, that's probably not a bad system. It's not a bad system. It works pretty darn well. It doesn't mean that it's a perfect system, obviously, because of the fact that there are differences, and those should be taken into account potentially in the future if we ever can, you know, do something like that. But I think it's better to err on the side of the status quo in that regard, because it's worked so well, and you know, I guess it just kind of gutturally doesn't feel. I think it feels, you know, better for a lot of people. You know, you don't probably want to go treating someone just because they got some kind of a, you know, a difference from the majority or something like that any differently. And I think a lot of people would agree that that's probably the way we want to continue in the near term, even long term future. But of course, so why does society not penalize you more in general, you know, Western civilization, than your brother? It's because they consider all human beings to be the same up here, right? Pretty much. Or you have the same, you know, basic moral understanding or complexity. But the thing is, that's kind of not the case, because, you know, there are people that have completely different ones. I mean, it's not just, you know, a gradient. It's not just a bell-shaped curve. It looks more like a bunch of humps, you know, for people's, I guess, ability to not be repulsed by their actions, or guilt about their actions. You know, some people way over here, the saints, you know, they kind of might have their little bump, you know, along, so they might, you know, super